because in the recent Euro bond that was issued successfully, we all, including me, expected a higher rate. We thought there would be difficulty in the issuance of the bond, but that was not to be, meaning that the investor community may be looking beyond the rating of rating agencies. Because at the time that the issuance of bond was made, it was the same period that many ratings were released, and a very negative picture was painted about the economy, and the managers of the economy do agree that the economy was in difficulty, and they were putting in measures to address them. So I believe investor community is now constantly aligning the program and progress that managers of the economy are making vis-a-vis the rating of this agency.
Right. So is this really a big deal? I mean, downgraded from B to B minus. Is it something that, I mean, you and I, the average citizens who are sitting back and waiting for the rippling effect of economic policies, is this something that we should worry our head about, really?
Well, technically, it gives a negative outlook about your ability to repay. But I shall say practically, what we have experienced in the recent bond issuance tells us that the investor community is growing beyond just looking at what a particular rating agency has said about an economy, but aligning the rating with what the economy is actually positioning itself to do, because borrowing and lending, borrowing and repayment is not only about the short-term issue, it's also about the medium-term ability of the country in terms of the revenue stream that the country is expecting, and the growth of the economy as the economy managers put in place measures. I think the investor community is doing this thing now because even those who are rating have huge credibility problems in some markets. So that is informing investors now about.
Can you clarify that? I mean, you want to say that Standard & Poor's credibility is tainted in some markets compared to the other rating agency, for example, Fitch? Is that what you're saying?
Not only Standard & Poor, but all credit rating agencies. Number one, as of last year, the American government was having difficulty in deciding whether to continue to work with S&P because they doubted the way they paint their rating picture about the American economy. Recently, before the great economic collapse, this same institution painted a very good picture, but that economic collapse. In Europe, the European Union has come to identify that there are problems with their rating, their methodology, lack of disclosure, etc. Became a problem. So they put in place a regulatory institution to regulate them. These are things that are documented that we can look at. In fact, recently, players in the investment market in UK have decided that they will downgrade the credit rating agencies by about 30% because they have realized that the way they are going about their work is not well disclosed. Transparency is lacking, and they think that they have problem with the way they do things. So these are all things that we need to balance with.
I see. Let me go back to the actual report of S&P. Now, I read a portion of it in which it says that although government successfully issued its third international bond in September, that's $1 billion, and the Ghana Cocoa Board has signed its annual syndicated loan, which it uses to purchase cocoa. High inflation, CD depreciation, and large fiscal deficit weaken confidence and consequently investment. I mean, this is a picture that has been painted by S&P to support the reason why it's downgrading us. Is this a fair assessment?
Well, for me, the issues are very clear. We are facing difficulty in terms of inflation. We are facing difficulty in terms of deficit. These are very clear issues. But I think going forward, what S&P and Co should be telling us whether the programs that are being rolled out or are being put in place, they are cogent enough to address the situation. I think that is the key thing. The government should also be in position to tell us whether their program that they put in place is cogent enough to address the situation. I think all that we are expecting is how to address the problems of the country.
How to address the problem, yeah.
I think we also need to look at the rating from a historical perspective stand of these institutions. I believe you are aware, I was in the studio with you, where the budget was read.
Yes.
Just 2 days after that, all these credit rating agencies came out and said that nothing good was indicated in the budget and that those things will never solve the problem of the country. So one can also say that when you are looking at the election year in 2016,
right. Dr. Gachi, I'll quickly have you pause. I've been joined on the telephone line by Madame Mona Korte, who is in a busy meeting, so I need to speak to her. Now, this is on the back of the fact that the finance minister has said that he's confident that the Ghana will regain its lost glory in the shortest possible time. So, Madame Korte, we're grateful that you could make this time, although you are very tight right now. Now, I need to understand from you what your response is to this initial downgrade. I mean, this downgrade from B to B+. What's government's response to this?
This is my response to it, because I don't have an official government response.
Position.
But my response to this is that clearly they had it in two parts. There was the short term, which was not downgraded, and they had the longer term, which they downgraded based on their opinion and their view of what they think future looks like. It was a very pessimistic view. They talked about high inflation, the Ghanaian cedi depreciating,
which are very clear indicators, like Dr. Gachi has said. These are very basic indicators we've had, right?
No. On the short term, they didn't downgrade us, so that is fine. On the longer term, you and I live in this country, and we know that inflation is not going higher. It is not. We also know that since August, the Ghana cedi has actually appreciated. And that is reflecting slowly into prices, into interest rates, and it will even show up in inflation. We saw the food CPI come off a little bit. So we know that there are improvements. These improvements will continue into the longer term. So clearly, with even the IMF engagement, and they have also said so that with the IMF engagement, we'll have some more external financing coming. We also saw that during the Eurobond issue, in spite of all the negativity that was around, there was an oversubscription. So clearly, our bright future will manifest. And clearly, we are putting in measures, and those measures are bearing fruit. And if we would just be patient and give it time, this long-term report that they are showing as negative will not be negative. And I think that the onus lies on us to work towards making the long-term brighter than even what they are showing here. Because we have all that it takes to do that.
So what are you doing? I mean, what are you doing to make the long-term brighter, like you've said?
We are going into the IMF program. We are going in with our homegrown policies, which will be sharpened under the IMF program. And we should then be able to overcome these short-term challenges. How come then, they showed that in the short term they didn't need to downgrade us? Because it's clear that we are making every effort to overcome these short-term challenges. So I think that the credit rating agency is being pessimistic. And perhaps because they write for the investor market, they want to play safe. So that's fine. But the onus lies on us to prove them wrong. So we'll work to do that.
So you think basically they are not being fair and that there are lots of considerations they've not taken?
I don't think that they are not being fair or being fair. That is neither here nor there. I think that they are putting out their opinion and their perspective of the long term. And I'm saying that we can do much better than what they have shown, and we will do much better.
Now, worrying is
being fair or not.
One thing they said, which is very worrying, is the fact that, I quote, that we also believe that the government will find agreeing and implementing a conditional lending program from official lenders very difficult. Now, this comes on the back of the fact that Ghana is yet to finalize the IMF agreement. And so if the ratings agency is casting doubt over your ability to implement conditions of this nature, that should be raising eyebrows, wouldn't you say?
No, we should not. no, it should not be raising eyebrows. That is their opinion. But we are going into the program, we are negotiating the program, and if it's about difficulties perhaps to do with social protection, we have a plan for that. Together with the fund, who doesn't also want to be seen as one who makes things difficult for citizens, we will work together to have social protection policies in place that will cushion the effect of going into a fund. So no, it will not be that difficult.
And there
will be some pain, but it will not be that difficult.
There've also been mention of the rising interest payments, relatively what it calls relatively lax expenditure control and new domestic arrears owed to fuel distributors. These, they say, will impede fiscal consolidation.
But those are all things that we are working on even now. So for it to be seen as a long-term difficulty, I don't see why one would say that. We are working on those things now to clear all those arrears. We are working on all those. So those are things that are happening even now. The measures are being taken now. The actions are being taken now. So there won't be a negative impact in the long term, no.
But the EU is doubtful that we use our resources efficiently. This could possibly be an influence over the other ratings agency. If today is Standard & Poor's, tomorrow it could be Fitch.
Well, Fitch and Moody's haven't said that. It's just Standard & Poor's who said that. It's their opinion. And as I said, they were looking at the cedi even depreciating more. They are looking at inflation going higher. But even now, we don't see that. That is not happening even now.
So if I ask you, I mean, in principle, as a lay person who possibly is following these downgrades and projections from these ratings agency, and I ask you about the true state of the economy, what will you tell me?
I would say we are going through some short-term challenges, but I do see the people of the country, especially the government, the Ministry of Finance, taking measures and working towards resolving these issues. And because of our bright future with respect to the oil and gas production, I see people who are working towards overcoming their short-term challenges and taking advantage of long-term opportunities to do well for the nation, irrespective of the fact that they no longer have access to too much concessional funds and to grants.
And you wouldn't also say that being pressed by these demands. I mean, there's a demand from the organized labor unions, and now teachers are on strike. Strikes here, strikes there. You still don't think that these are pressing enough to be making us still worried whether we are on our feet?
You know, I just spoke on I believe, Joy, the same program, and there was the gentleman from the union on the other side. And he did say that this thing has a long history. So it's not even, what is happening now is not something that just started a few weeks ago, but it has some history, it's been cumulative. And the ministry here is working on clearing arrears. And we'll continue to do that, to clear arrears, because we do believe that teachers are very important and should be in the classroom. And therefore, we'll work hard at clearing those arrears, and that's what we are doing. And we are pressing on.
And in clearing the arrears and pressing on, is it not having a dent on economic confidence and investor confidence, for example, and our ability to manage it as a country?
We were just talking about inflation, about exchange rates, about international investor confidence and all that. I think that the situation you are just describing now is one local situation that needs to be resolved, and we are working on that. So it's just one of the many things that happens in a nation. A nation's finances is made up of so many different pockets, and one needs to just tackle all of them. So we are keeping a cool head, and we are tackling each one. And we are trying to be not so firefighting mode, but just taking one thing at a time and dealing with it, so that it doesn't come back again as another problem.
Right. Thank you very much, Madam Monacote, for your time. Madam Monacote is Deputy Finance Minister, and we're grateful that she was in a very tight meeting, but she could make some time with us. We still have Dr. John Gachi on the line, though. Doc, so we've heard from Monacote. I'm sorry she couldn't stay so that we could do an interaction between yourself and her, but she's optimistic that government is doing a lot to arrest this situation, and that S&P's the downgrade and the opinions they've expressed typically it's just their opinion. Your reaction?
Well, I think I would just focus on balancing the opinion of other institutions across the world. Institutions such as the IMF, the World Bank, all believe that the medium to long-term prospect is bright. So I don't know how S&P alone will now tell us the medium to long term is not bright. That is very difficult. So that is all that I can say. But I think the government is also not helping us a lot in the sense that we have asked this question, that we have solicited rating and unsolicited rating, and all have implications to our analysis. They should come clear and tell us whether these three rating agencies are actually solicited or not, and that will help our further discussion.
I see. I mean, can you give me further explanation? I mean, I'm not business savvy, so if you say solicited, unsolicited, where would the layman put himself in the discussion and understand exactly where we're heading to?
Yeah, when you are not solicited, it means that technically the country is not paying you for your services.
Right.
You may be saving some other interested party, depending on the way you want to serve that interested party. That may influence the kind of rating that you give. That may not resonate with the entire market. So we need to know these things, and then that will help the general discussion.
Right. Now, when we consider, there's an issue I put to Monacote a while ago about something that S&P mentioned in their report. They cited a high rise in interest payments, a relatively lax expenditure control, and what it calls new domestic arrears owed to fuel distributors. This, they believe, will impede fiscal consolidation. Do you see that any of government's policies and programs have been well targeted or geared towards fiscal consolidation, and that this statement perhaps is a true reflection of what's happening on the ground?
Unless you ask the minister what specific programs are in place to address that particular or that specific situation. And if she is unable to address that, then we will know that there is nothing on the table. So that is why I think all the problems have been identified, cataloged very clearly from the beginning. In fact, even after the budget was read, S&P came up and said that these things are not going to work. So it is the duty of the government to come up very clearly the specific programs that are targeting specific problems as we go along. And this is what is not forthcoming in the S&P report. It's just giving an opinion that it will not work. But what is it that will not work? The programs or what? So I think we need to look at all those things before we give a more discussion on this.
Right.
So for government will come out and say we are on course. But I think it is also important to come out clearly the specific issues that you are doing to address specific problems, and that will generate more confidence as we go along.
Right, Dr. John Gachi, we're grateful and for your time on today's big story. Thank you very much. Now, the MPP's Kweku Kwati, who is also MP for Bossy West, has told us that he shares the doubts of the credit ratings agency in a sense that he believes that government has not been forthcoming and credible in adhering to its own policies and programs to arrest concerns of the economy. We're trying to raise him on the telephone line, but Sydney Casely Hayford is joining us on the telephone. Sydney, this ratings downgrade by Standard & Poor's from B to B minus, I mean, we will keep going round it and discussing the implications to the economy. From where you stand, does this come to you as a surprise?
No, I'm not at all surprised. I'm not surprised that we've been downgraded. I'm surprised that we were not downgraded even more. I think that the S&P has been particularly nice to Ghana at this point in time, because when you try and understand what I'm looking at, I think the situation is very, very abysmal, and we have a very, very difficult uphill task to be able to turn this economy around.
Yeah, but we just spoke to Mona Korte, Deputy Finance Minister. She has a very positive posturing. I mean, government is working to address these concerns that have been raised by Standard & Poor's, and it's not fair to be making reference to one side and then to the other they say the long term is not good. I mean, so if she's positive, and I mean, they are the managers of the economy, then where lies your uncertainty and doubt about whether there is anything good happening?
Well, you can't say otherwise, because that will be a self-indictment of the policies they have put in place and how they have managed the economy. I mean, Mona Korte hasn't been around for a very long time. but certainly she has inherited what is currently facing us. And I don't think that I can expect, and we should expect her to say anything else apart from the fact that it is a manageable situation. That's the spin they have to put on it. So I'm not surprised that she's saying what she's saying. But if she is to be very, very realistic, and if she's to sit back and really coldly analyze where we are, I think that the Standard & Poor's rating is a bad reflection of what we are going through today. And it could get worse if we are not careful, just like you're saying. So it's not like everybody thinks it's an impossible situation. It's a dark situation, but it has to be addressed, and it has to be tackled with a lot more clarity and a lot more out-of-the-box thinking than what we are trying to do at the moment.
Right. Sydney, we're grateful for your time on today's Big Story. Thank you very much. Now, the MPP Kweku Kwarteng, who is MP for Bossy West and the party's spokesperson on finance, says he shares the doubts of the credit ratings agency over the economy as the conduct of Ghana's affairs has not been consistent. He says the current government has not exactly demonstrated the political courage to adhere to its own policies and programs. He now joins us quickly. So, Mr. Kwarteng, you say that you share the doubts of the credit ratings agency. I mean, you see this as a doubt? I mean, doubt in our economic managers' ability to hold the economy together. Can you tell us why?
Well, I'm judging from the conduct of government in the last 6 years. And I'll take just two quick examples. At the close of 2013, when government came to Parliament with its budget, it promised that petroleum subsidy was going to be just about 50 million for the entire 2014. Some of us questioned this because previously petroleum subsidy for, say, 2013 had been almost 2 billion. So some of us put the question to the government that how do you intend to do this? And government said we're going to have the automatic petroleum price adjustment regime. And therefore, we are confident, I'm quoting them, we are confident that this projection is something we can meet. Now, by the middle of the year, if you project 50 million for the entire year, by the middle of the year, we are expecting some 25 million petroleum subsidy. By the middle of the year, when government came to Parliament to present the media review, we had done 619 million instead of 25 million. Now, I ask, this homegrown policies that we claim we took to the IMF has been with us since the beginning of the year. So how come that in spite of our own commitment to regulate how much subsidy government gives such that it will be within our means, we ended up this way? One question. The second question, a quick one. You see, government, again, in the homegrown policy paper that was presented to Parliament in the beginning of the year, government said, look, we're going to have some kind of moratorium on new loans and new projects. And therefore, the expectation was that interest payments, the interest we pay on the loans we contract, would be checked.
Right. And so, Mr. Kwarteng, yeah, sure.
So, it ended up that the projected 6 billion interest payment has now been shot up to 8 billion. The point I'm making is this. Government itself is not demonstrating that it can adhere to some of the commitments they are making to the IMF in this program bailout. And that is why many of us are worried that in the end, this IMF bailout might not be successful.
So,
however,
you think that our ratings, our ratings could get worse? I mean, despite what we see as a negative outlook from B to B minus, it could get worse? I mean, I'm trying to quickly...
it could get worse because really what international observers are saying is that they don't trust that government will have the political courage to implement some of the commitments they are making. That is one of the major bases for the downgrading of our economy. And therefore, the burden is on government to demonstrate that I have repented of my ways, and that going forward, I would manage our fiscals more prudently than we have been doing in the past. The burden is on government. It's not to say we have been doing well, we have been doing well. Now, the government might just keep quiet and demonstrate what it says it can do.
Right, that's fair. Now, what solutions, apart from you saying that they should be demonstrating what commitments they have, what solutions do you think government should be pursuing?
The first thing is that government should check the corruption. If you look at the Auditor General's report, we are spending so much money we need not spend. One, government must demonstrate clear commitment to cut the corruption. That will reduce the expenditure a bit.
But Mr. Kwasi, are you not just being politically savvy and taking advantage of this situation to possibly throw your weight about without making any concrete suggestions? I mean, cutting corruption and the things that you're raising, you've said it all over many times. And, I mean, it doesn't look like these are yielding any impacts on solving the problems that are on our hand.
Well, it's unfortunate. I mean, if corruption hurts our fiscals and they increase our expenditure illegitimately, and we think because we have been saying that in the past, we should just stop saying it, then we don't want to solve the problems.
Right.
It is one of the problems, we must deal with it too.
I see.
Government must also demonstrate a certain commitment to do the things you need courage to do. And a quick one, government says it will remove some of the subvented agencies from government subvention because given their finances, they should be able to finance themselves. What is government waiting for? So again, you see a certain attitude of, well, we know we have to do it, but we probably will not do it now. If government continues like that, our fiscals will deteriorate and will be downgraded further.
Right, Kweku Kwati, we're grateful for your time. Unfortunately, this is where this is all we'll have time for. My name is Stephen Enti, and thanks for hanging out with us on today's Big Story. We'll be right back with an interactive segment. Do stay.